Welcome back. You're listening to Mira Business FM. This is DayBreak with me, Inzamam Rashid. Now, you may have heard in the headlines the story about hospitality and how hospitality in Dubai continues to perform. That was research done by Cavendish Maxwell, reporting that hotel occupancy averaged 81.2% in the first half of 2025, and international visitors reached just under 10 million. But today we're going to dive into what I think is a remarkable story of growth, perhaps even resilience, and most definitely impact on the hospitality world, and particularly here in the Middle East. In a city where restaurants and concepts often come and go at dizzying speed, one group has stood the test of time, and then some. Gates Hospitality, founded by my guest today, Dr. Naim Maadad, in 2010, is celebrating 15 years in business. It's a milestone that makes it something of an institution in Dubai's ever-evolving hospitality scene. Let's just look back at those 15 years before I bring in Dr. Naim. In those 15 years, Gates has launched 49 restaurants, 28 spas, 11 hotel and resort projects globally. They employ more than 1,500 people worldwide, with venues stretching from Dubai to London, behind legacy names like Reform Social and Grill, the relaunched Folly Brasserie, and innovative new concepts like Jardine. And they're not slowing down. That's one thing is fair to say. 3 brand new F&B concepts set to launch later this year as well. Now, Dr. Naim himself, and I'm looking at him as I'm saying this, has been called the godfather of hospitality. I don't know who named him that, but I think it's very apt. We'll introduce him anyway as that. Dr. Naim, thank you so much for joining us on Mira Business FM. Where did the name godfather of hospitality come from?
Morning, and thanks for having me. Have you seen my head growing in size? Look, I guess you've touched on a couple of adjectives: resilience and stability and growth. And really, this is what defines Gates and what defines the engine behind Gates and the team that I have supporting me. So the godfather bit is about that continuation. It's about that innovation, all fueled by our 4 brand pillars: innovate, engage, belong, enrich. And really, if you take all of these 4 brand pillars, that's what makes us unique. That's what made us stand the test of times. And we're here, we're thriving, despite the fact that political instability, growth, new brands, international influx, you name it, we've gone through it.
So it's not the pinstripe suit and the pinstripe suit and the pocket square that the reason you're named the Godfather?
This is part of the whole package that you're getting this morning.
Look, thank you so much for joining us. 15 years in the industry, in Dubai of all places. You know, I mentioned it, that this is a place where you see restaurants come and go, hospitality come and go. And yes, that has happened within the Gates Group, but you guys have stood the test of time, 15 years. What's the secret to building something so lasting like Gates has?
I guess like any business, really, it's about understanding the demography, understanding the influx of people, understanding the locations, and equally as important, understanding what's happening in the marketplace. All of my businesses today, I'd like to think they've been planned for a cycle of 10 years. So most of my leases, most of my businesses are 5 plus 5. And that's how we've set out to do the business, in order to make sure that we have longevity, return on investment, and brands that become really iconic and institutions, as you referenced earlier.
I read somewhere that you had said that Gates is kind of built on substance over scale. What does that kind of actually mean in practice, particularly when it comes to Dubai, which has expanded so quickly and continues to expand so quickly?
Look, I guess it's speed versus substance. So we really have zero interest in speed. We're about stability. We're part of the rich tapestry of the mix. We're here to stay. And over the last 15 years, if you take Reform Social and Grill from a neighborhood gastropub into an institution very quickly, and it still thrives. It's still one of the local gastropubs around the city that does extremely well, that people feel they belong to, and we refer to it as your local, because it is a local venue that people frequent, be it for breakfast, be it for coffee, be it for a beverage or a bite to eat. So for me, what's essential is to understand the neighborhood, understand the demography of who we are providing a solution, like a venue that actually talks to the community, that is easy access, that has longevity, and we can make sure that we can service the place.
I'd be interested to know how you've done that over the last 15 years, because you will have seen firsthand how Dubai has evolved over the last 15 years. And so as a hospitality group, surely you've also had to adapt given the communities and how things have been changing at a rapid pace. How has that been, having to adapt continuously?
Yeah, our strength is we're here, we are on the ground, we live, we're part of the mix. We're not sending emails out of Europe somewhere and sending money transfers. We're here, we're part of the mix, like I said. And what's very essential is we understand the movements of the city. We're part of shaping the city, we're part of shaping the neighborhoods. And I think this is our strength. We are known as a neighborhood community, guys, for this very same reason.
So take us back to 2010 then, when you started all of this with, I think, one venue it was that you had back there. Did you kind of ever imagine that you'd reach, nearly 50 restaurants and projects across multiple continents? Was that always the vision, or was it kind of, let's just try it initially and see how it goes? What was it like back 15 years ago?
Yeah, the vision, for those who know me would agree with this, is the vision. I've always been very ambitious. So it's not about what is it we're doing, it's about the success of what it is that we're doing and the sustainability of what we stand for. And that, I'd like to think 15 years in this market is like 30 years elsewhere. If not longer. So 2010, Ultra Brasserie in Ema Square was our foray to the market, and we really had studied the neighborhood very carefully to understand who's in the space, who's performing in the space, who's using the space, accessibility, parking, you name it. And the next 5 years, what are the plans around us in that plot of land at the time, which is no longer the case. So there's been a lot of study and a lot of research. And again, people that see me spending time in certain neighborhoods for weeks on end, they know very well that I'm looking at a venue in that neighborhood.
Yeah, just tell us about your process. What are you doing? Are you going and spending time in an area before you're actually investing and ploughing some money into that with a new project? Like how does it work?
The cycle is very simple. We find a location that we believe we can do something with, and then we'll try to understand who is in that neighborhood. We try to understand who's playing in that space from food and beverage perspective, from an offering, from future, who's occupying the offices, the residences, and we pluck a solution. Our success is that we're not selling a brand. We're looking at vacuums in the market and plugging a solution for those.
That feels like a bit of like secret sauce to what the Gates operation is about, right? Because it feels like maybe other hospitality groups don't necessarily do as much of that and kind of, think about the hotspots and try and put their concept there and hope that it thrives.
Secret sauce it is, and it's about understanding any market that you're playing in. I mean, we've done the same in London. We went in, we studied the market, we studied the neighborhood. We saw who's actually occupying those spaces, who spends time in those neighborhoods, and provided solutions for them to frequent and to enjoy.
I think it was just last year that you had suggested that the UAE remains one of the best bets globally for hospitality and investment. What specifically about the market here keeps attracting entrepreneurs?
I think the safety factor shouldn't be underestimated. So safety is one within the region. Two, I think the influx of people from Europe, the influx of people from Asia that are aspiring to be residing here. And I think what the government has been very smart in doing is providing various aspects of visas, various aspects of people to come in and invest, enjoy lifestyle generally in a very safe and engaging, inviting surroundings. So I think we'll continue. If you look at the globe today, if you look at certain parts of the world, there are recessions. People aren't talking about them. Whereas in this part of the world, we still seem to be growing. We're attracting amazing talent, high net worth individuals. And as I said earlier, the variety of visas now that gives people so many options to choose and select from is incredible. Because that's been a game changer.
One thing I couldn't figure out, why Gates Hospitality? How did the name come about back in 2010?
Bill? No, on a serious note, gates, I always like to think that when you open a gate, there's always an opportunity behind the gate. So we keep unlocking the gates. We keep opening windows and doors and opportunities. And It's about that excitement when you open a gate. That you always genuinely look what's behind a gate, what's behind that door. So we like to think all of our people keep an eye out on what we're doing. You earlier mentioned about the venues we're doing. We're doing some amazing stuff at the tail end of this year as well. That's very exciting. Again, very engaged and very grounded. That's really where Gates is. It's for people who reside here, who can frequent what we do 2-3 times a week without thinking that this is excessive.
So you haven't had a former president come to one of the venues yet? Is that the plan?
All are queuing up.
I just wanted to, I know you touched on London a bit. I want to get your expertise and your kind of idea on how you see Dubai's hospitality sector compared to London, where obviously Gates has got presence there as well. What kind of lessons transfer across those markets? What works, what doesn't work that you found out?
Very different markets, and I think we should always remember maturity of any market that we play in. So maturity in markets defines behavior, defines spending pattern, defines the joie de vivre, as I call it. So I think what's very essential is to understand who you are working with, who you're working for, and who you're providing a solution for. The UK market is extremely well established. It's been in years. Food and beverage has really pioneered on multi-levels for decades rather than years, actually. Whereas if you take the UAE market, when we first started, it was a very limited market. We have escalated rapidly, very quickly. As a matter of fact, we seem to be importing brands now, exporting brands, and you name it, it's happening.
That's the interesting thing about the UAE is that actually now it is sending a lot of homegrown brands out to the rest of the world, and particularly into the West. How much has that changed since you began 15 years ago?
Not only has it changed, it never existed. Really, if you wind back the clock 10 years ago, brands were only coming into the region. We were going out scouting for brands that we felt would actually work and would be sustainable in this marketplace, whereas today we know full well that what we're doing here is a lot more advanced. And if you talk design component, if you talk about sustainability, if you talk about the offering itself and the environment, I think we have been able to shift very quickly because of the newness to the market and the ability to actually invest wisely.
And do you think that that's kind of down to it? Do you think there is space still for homegrown operators? Because there obviously was, over the last kind of 10, 15 years, as you know, this huge influx of international names kind of dominating the market. But do you feel like here in the UAE, particularly in Dubai, there is still space for kind of homegrown operators?
There are spaces for all brands, be it international, be it local, homegrown. I think the consumer has become very savvy. I think as long as your offering, your pricing strategy, your continuity, consistency is in place, I think businesses will do extremely well.
Let's talk about Gates in particular, and you've got over 1,500 people as a workforce globally. I think retaining leadership in a transient city like Dubai must be pretty tough if I was to put myself in your shoes. How have you managed that and kept growing that team as well?
It is a tough chapter. The human capital has always been one of the biggest challenges because, again, let's not forget, reality is a lot of people have come out here to actually make money and send money home. That has shifted over the years. People are here now to reside here and make a home out of being in the UAE. The best way to attract people is treat them the way you'd like to be treated and make sure that you create that kind of community, that family aspect. We have an amazing talent kind of retention level, which is very strong, and we've seen a lot of people that have left us to other experiences and work offers, but have also come back. And for me, that is very powerful. That is very strong. And not only does it dictate who we are, it enforces amongst the team themselves how we treat people and how the culture is so strong internally.
I know, because this growing talent and kind of mentoring young talent is very close to the way you operate as well. Why is that so important and such an important part of the Gates mission?
Look, I don't forget where I came from. I had some amazing mentors in my career growing up, and I valued what they have contributed towards my success, my growth, my shortfalls, and how they've nurtured my development. So I think it's an obligation for me it's my CSR to my community, my industry, to develop individuals. And what's best than developing your own people, growing your own people, because irrespective of them leaving your organization, they still always make a reference of their best experiences in life. And their best experiences are, and I'm hoping, under the Gates roofs.
Can you give us an insight where you did come from? What was your background, and what made you get to this position where you're passing on the mentorship to other people?
It's an interesting career. I started in politics, 3 years in politics, and I've realised very quickly in my third year of university that it's not something that I really enjoy doing. So I packed up and I left, and then ended up in Cordon Bleu Hotel of School doing hospitality. Family's always been in hospitality in Australia, so I grew up in restaurants and bars and cafes, despite the fact that I hated every minute of it, and here I am. Doing exactly the same. Before Gates, before 2010, I did 20 odd years in hotels. So my last 8 years, 4 years with Anantara, MD for the group globally, 4 years with Six Senses, MD globally. So it's been luxury hotels, and really the fact that I've been surrounded by some amazing individuals, amazing leaders in the industry, has put me into good state to be doing what I'm doing today.
What made you go, I want to peel away from that kind of, being under the corporate umbrella of big organizations like Anantara and other hotels, and I want to do my own thing? What was the kind of catalyst that made you go away and do that?
It's a long list. If I think of bureaucracy, I think of red tape, and I think of freedom as well. I think irrespective of where you are in those organizations, you're still really not the owner of your daily chores and final decisions, because you do have investors, you have a board, you have CEOs that really you're reporting into daily. So no matter how much freedom you have, you still have an obligation to report up. And that for me as an individual was always something that I thought I'll do it for my own one day. I'm already doing it, so why not do it with my own space, in my own speed, and try it out. And here we are 15 years later. Yeah,
here we are 15 years later with the title of Godfather of Hospitality. You're listening to Mira Business FM. This is DayBreak with me, Inzamam Rashid. We are in conversation with Dr. Naim Maadad. He's the Gates Hospitality founder. We're talking to him about all things hospitality, but of course his 15 years in the business, starting here at 2010 with Gates Hospitality, and how it has stood the test of time. It's coming up to 12:30. We're going to get the news headlines very shortly. If you're okay to stick with us, Dr. Naim, we've still got plenty to talk about after the news, and we'll be back after this very, very short break.
Mira Business FM.
Welcome back to DayBreak, just coming up to 12:33. If you are watching us on YouTube right now, you will see that we are joined in the studio by none other than the Godfather of Hospitality. I love that name. You must have that surely kind of like printed or something, a picture of you stroking a white cat in a... I'm sure you have. So look, we're talking to Dr. Naim Maadad. He's the founder of Gates Hospitality here in Dubai, talking about 15 years in the business with Gates Hospitality and the success, and also what it's taken to have that success over the last 15 years. Appreciate you sticking with us, Dr. Naim. I want to look forward now, though, and for the next 15 years of Gates Hospitality. How do you keep growing and stand the test of time for the next 15 years as well as a hospitality group out here in the UAE?
Yeah, look, our selection process is very rigid. We are not into the volume game. We are looking at venues within neighborhoods, within locations that we feel we can add value. By understanding our own offering, by understanding our mix, our business itself, makes it actually rather easy, because we know what we can do, what we can't do. I always like to stretch ourselves a little bit, but stretching within parameters that are achievables. So when we're looking at locations, when we're looking at destinations, when we're looking at other Emirates, the question's always about, are we really able to fulfill this? Because this is not a one-off. This is daily chores and long hours. And realistically, you're relying on individuals to execute your vision in a venue. So if that venue is not easy to reach and easy to access for me and the senior leadership, then we are putting a lot of risk on brands.
How much of it comes through to you? Like, are you quite pedantic and not controlling, but quite, hands-on with the kind of decision making and actually go and visiting the place and making sure that it fits within the brand and that's the right step to take. Are you actively kind of making those decisions?
I'm very active in the business, so what I do is I take my laptop and I sit in one of the venues every day rather than being in an office for multiple reasons. One is there is always good food, there's always good people around me, it's a coffee machine, and in seriousness, I get to see what's happening exactly rather than be told what's happening. And typically before I leave, there's always a long list for the head chef and the GM of my findings. Unfortunately, these lists are never the positive stuff that they're excelling at already. It's stuff that I think we should be looking at, we should be putting more attention to and driving towards a better offering or a better experience generally.
Ever gone into one of your venues and kind of done that and come out with not a long list? Or is it always kind of strive for better?
It's always strive for better, but it depends on what the better is. And I think, there are times where I say to myself, today is probably not a good day to be giving feedback based on my mindset.
Yes, spoke like a true leader there. I want to talk a bit about what's coming up over the next few months and the year ahead. What are the plans? There's some very interesting announcements that have been made under the Gates Group. So tell us what is coming up and what information can you give us about them?
Sure. So I can start with, as I call it, the old girl reform. Reform's garden's going through a major repositioning. We're doing a lot of work on the garden enhancement. And as a matter of fact, we're adding a business within the business. Now, for Reform, in order to continue on being a leader in its field, in that space, we continue on innovation and collaboration and working with third-party partners to keep momentum and to provide third-party excitements as well. So Reform is number one. The second one is Media One Hotel. We've taken over the top floor, 43rd floor. And within that floor, we're putting in three brands, so to speak. Papafuku is our Southeast Asian restaurant that's going to be extremely playful, very much value-driven, high-vibe space. We also have the office, which is a social working space for people to bring their laptop and have access to a coffee machine and a cigarette if they choose to do so. And additionally, on the same space, on the same floor, as a matter of fact, we have a very lively band music-driven space with food and beverage offering. Why in Media City? Because we feel that's really our neighbourhood. That's where we play extremely well. A lot of the office towers are occupied by people that frequent our venues in Marina or the lakes. And the same that a lot of people reside in those neighbourhoods as well.
Yeah, it's quite central to a lot of neighbourhoods, isn't it? Marina, Greens,
very much so. It's
in
the heart of the young generation, a lot of the working young gens that are really easy to access. There's metro, there is obviously a lot of public transportation at various levels, so it's easy to access, and it's within 4 business towers, literally within walking distance, so it's exciting. We will be venturing into Abu Dhabi as well this year. We have a project that we're working on. It's official, but I can't really talk about it. But it's big. It's in a museum space. And we'll leave it at that for now.
Sadia Island, maybe?
You are in the right neighbourhood.
Okay, very good to know. Good to know. Well, we'll chase you up on that one. Look, that's the future, and I do just want to wind the clock back a little bit to some of the kind of external shocks that have come your way.
I'm not done with the future.
Okay, well we'll keep going with the future. We'll keep going with the future after we've done the past. I just want to talk a bit about external shocks that came your way, particularly recently. COVID was a huge one. Then supply chain disruptions, obviously a big one, and inflation as well. I think it's fair to say. I'd love to know how Gates Hospitality and yourself, what kind of mindset you got into when those disruptions came about, and how you tackled them essentially.
Again, being in the space and living through those chapters is fundamental to keep it real. And I think the best decision that I made in COVID was to get the senior leadership team in a room and say, what do we do? There's been no book written about this. There's no manual sitting on the shelf for us to say, let's pull the manual out and follow step by step. So we've decided to basically close all of the venues and operate out of Freeform's kitchen. So all of the brands came into one venue.
Wow.
And did a lot of home packs. And we did a lot of engagement online with our audience.
Right.
So we stayed extremely active. We had a podcast with our chefs. We had a training for a lot of the food and beverage service team. We had bingo. We had a lot of activities. So we went from physical, online, like everyone else did, but we brought that fun, that quirky factor, to make sure that we stayed as a community, guys. We stayed engaged, and we told people we're all going through this together. A lot of the team members that chose to go home, whatever home was, they were sent home. Nobody was terminated. They were given the option to go home, and when the business ramps back up, we'll bring you back in. A lot of people took those options up. And look, reality is there's no knee-jerk reaction. It's about understanding, making decisions that are sound and viable for the business. I did say internally, if there is no business, none of us will exist. So first, our objective, all of us, we need to protect the business. And then we see how that filters through. And it worked.
How much of a tough time was that for you guys?
It was tough. However, again, blessed with decisions that the country had made, it was a short period of time. Elsewhere in the world, in Australia, in the UK, we suffered for extended periods of time. And to top it all up, the decisions that were made to support people financially actually made the working community very lazy. So to pull people back into the workforce was an absolute challenge. Whereas here, it was short, it was precise, very cautiously curated, and the lights came back on fairly quickly.
I found that very odd, during COVID time, is that, COVID itself was an issue that was the same for absolutely everyone. But yet, some countries reopened a lot quicker and really got their economies moving a lot faster, where some countries really, really fell behind and struggled from it. And I really kind of struggled to get my head around why that was, until you do actually look at the leadership and how some countries kind of make decisions and what that comes down to. You've obviously got the benefit of looking at at venues that you've got in London and out here in the UAE. During that time, what were you looking at? How were you comparing the two places?
Well, the gap was huge. The way we operated here, the way we had directives here was very clear, very transparent. We knew what we can do, what we can't do. We knew who can come to work, what time and what paperwork they required. Whereas in the UK, it was very challenging to be polite.
Yeah, diplomatic.
To be very polite. And look, we navigate through those. Unfortunately, who suffers? It's the end users and the employees who suffered most. Obviously, as a business, we had to challenge our landlords, we had to challenge our accounts, we had to challenge our stores, our warehouses, based on reality. But all of this is material. That's what really was the devastating part, was the livelihood of individuals that did not know how to react and made decisions based on media brainwashing rather than reality.
When we look at the situation now, and inflation is obviously one of the big knock-on effects from many things that are happening around the world, but specifically here in the UAE, rents are high, staff is expensive, supply chains volatile from time to time. Honestly, kind of how profitable is the F&B industry in Dubai right now? Are people even potentially overestimating margins out here?
It's an oversaturated market. I'm first to say, I think we have about 15,000 licenses in Dubai. And if you do the maths quickly, there's 4 million people that reside in Dubai. We've just ticked over 4 million.
Yeah.
I'll say 2 million is labour. So they don't actually use anything that we have. They don't value what we do, what we provide. You have 700,000 Emiratis that, again, have preferred places they frequent. Then you're left with 1.3 million people, principally. Now, these 1.3 million people are from 2,500 dirhams a month up to 250.
Yeah.
So if you break that down again, all of us in the F&B sector, the kind of upper scale, if I may, are after 500,000 people. Now, of course, you may say to me, what about Emirates Airlines? What that influx of tourism? Of course, massive. But from our business, we talk to local residents. Our business is communities. Our business is, we benefit from international travelers. If you're coming to visit your family here,
Sure.
because they'll bring you over. Sure. But would you find us in the glitzy parts of the UAE or of Dubai? Absolutely not. This is not who we are. This is not what we set out to do.
And it's about that repeat custom, isn't it? About getting people through the door once again and kind of leaving a mark. And if you come to visit your sister, then, oh, I remember going to that place. Let's go back to that next time I come.
100%. Look, we have people, when they actually leaving Dubai recently, someone sent us a bunch of flowers saying, thank you for taking care of me over the years. It doesn't happen often, not in this part of the world. But you become such an integral part of their community. And I think that's a fundamental shift where you're part of their daily experiences.
Okay, so let's talk over the next 15 years. You mentioned some of the projects coming up at the end of this year. Where do you see Gates Hospitality in another 15 years from now? Where will we be? 2040?
2040, God, you're making me sound so old.
In your crystal ball, yeah.
Honestly, I don't think much will change. I think the success of Gates will continue on making sure the relevance to the marketplaces. No matter where you are, you need to be relevant to the market, where the market maturity is at. I foresee a massive growth in the African continent. I think that's where a lot will be happening, and there's a vacuum. We are already playing in that market, but not to deep level, which will change, I think, over the next couple of years. And I see the Middle East continuing to grow and evolve rapidly from a place where people used to come for a couple of years to a residence place. And that providing those solutions is actually very different than providing pop-ups and quick turnaround venues. There's a lot, I think, that we will witness with Emirates Airline continuing and doing what it does, putting the place on the map. And the reputation that the UAE has generally, I think the UAE will continue on excelling.
Okay, so I want to go out with my lad mates on a Friday night. Where am I going?
Reform Social and Grill.
I'm going to take my partner. Mum, I don't have a partner yet, so calm down. For a brunch on a Saturday morning. Where am I going?
Saturday morning, Folly Brasserie.
And I want to go on a date night.
Bistro Desert Marina.
There we go. Absolutely sorted. For us, you heard that? Yeah, you keep that in mind. Look, Dr. Naim Maadad, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure just delving into your mind and how things have operated over the last 15 years and what's to come for Gates Hospitality over the next 15 as well. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on Mira Business FM.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.